My teacher used to say that you can change out of hope or desperation. He also had an edgier, similar saying that he would have, and he would say that you could change willingly or on your hands and knees. And this second saying was more about that change is going to happen, that change is inevitable, that, life itself is change. The essence of life is change. It's always growing, it's always changing, it's always evolving, but what I think we do sometimes as human beings is we get into a phase of our life or a way that we're comfortable with things, and then we kind of say, this is how I want life to be. And in life, I don't want life to change. I want it to stay this way. We kind of make this dynamic, changing life, we try to make it static, And then, as I spoke about in a couple video blogs ago, like things tend to like run their course. That phase of our life, it grows, it develops, and then it gets to the point where it's complete, And right about then, life, spirit, God, the universe will send us this signal. It's like, it's kind of time for a change. This phase of your life is about done, and it sends this kind of message, or we get this insight. It's like, oh, okay, it's time. And that's when we get this choice, if you will. We can either change willingly or on our hands and knees. In other words, we can say, okay, it's time to change. I think I'll do that. Or we can put that off, and then it ends up that life kind of forces us to change. So unfortunately, as human beings, I think we often choose to not listen to life's invitation or message that it's time to change, And then what happens is it could be a relationship that we're in, it could be a job, it could be a phase of our life. What happens is as it completes itself, it begins to shift and it begins to kind of degrade. And it's less and less satisfying. It might become more dysfunctional. It's not as fulfilling anymore. And it ends up getting kind of more and more painful, until it gets to a point where it's either too painful, or sometimes something shifts outside of us, like we get fired, or the relationship, they break up with us, or COVID happens and our life gets rearranged that way, and something happens and we're kind of forced to change. Now, obviously, this is not pleasant when this happened, and we're like, oh my, and then we tend to take a little bit of the victim stance, like I got screwed over, or this happened, or whatever else. And we forget the point that like life did give us a choice and we chose not to listen to it, So we tend to resent that, life, forced us to change. And then we brush ourselves off and kind of begrudgingly, we're like, okay, well, I guess I don't have much of a choice, so I guess I'll have to change. And then we make the change, so that's the other way. But if you think about it, that's a lot of pain that we put ourselves through to make this change. It's kind of a lot of karma, a lot of pain that we're creating for ourselves to go through this process that, as my teacher suggested, is going to happen anyway. Life is basically like, what? This change is going down. You get a choice on how it goes down. You can either accept it or you can fight it, So, which brings us to the alternative, right? Is we could change willingly. So in this scenario, life comes along, spirit, life, universe, and shows us signs that it is time to make a change. It gives us an invitation. It's like, okay, it's time to change. This thing you've been doing, it's kind of stale. It's come to its end. And we could say, okay, and this maybe we see that it's time for it, or maybe we're still attached to it. But either way, it's like, okay, I see that it's time to change. I'm going to open myself up to that. I'm going to explore what the new thing is. If I'm still, if I'm still attached to it, say, okay, it's been a nice run. I've enjoyed this while it lasted. It was kind of sweet, or it was comfortable, or it was fun, or it was, and I'll miss this. And we can go through whatever grief or whatever we need to do, and then we kind of venture off into the unknown, into something new. And it's quite possible that this fear of the unknown was the reason that we were dragging our feet when it was time to make change anyway, And to be fair, the unknown is really scary, because we just don't know what's going to happen. And we never really know what's going to happen. But in our old thing, we told ourselves a story that we did know. So now we're accepting that we're in the unknown and we don't know what's going to happen. And that is scary, But it's also exciting, when we're in the unknown, we feel vital and we feel alive. It's like we're on an adventure. It's like life's inviting us to go on the true adventure, the true journey of being in the unknown and seeing what life presents to you. So anyway, that's kind of the choice, right? So the next time life kind of presents to you that it might be time to make a change, it's giving you this invitation. It's like, it seems like this part of your life is about done, and you start getting these signs, just remember that you have a choice, and then quite possibly give yourself a break and choose to make the change willingly, and just saying, okay, what you got, life? It's time for a new adventure. Let's go on that, and I'll get myself in alignment with that. So anyway, that is my video for this week. Thank you for watching. I hope that you have an awesome week and that you see the changes that maybe are presenting to themselves and realize that you have a choice. So I will see you in a week.